Welcome back. It's still Nigeria at 63. Special coverage right here on Central TV. I'm Kofi Bartels.
And I remain Dashen, Usman.
Right, then time to talk the economy right here on the special coverage, as we said, of Nigeria's independence anniversary at 63. Nigeria's president this morning gave a nationwide speech and said some important things. Most of what he said we can say bordered on economic issues because, Dashen, those are the issues of the moment and the issues that Nigerians have been looking forward to hearing from him about. But we have a guest this evening to talk the economy. He is the chief economist and partner at SPM Professionals. He is an international economic analyst, holds a doctorate in economics, actually. I'd like to say welcome and good evening to join us in the studio, Paul Alaje. Paul Alaje, good evening to you.
Yeah, thank you so very much for having me. Beautiful evening to you.
All right, now, Paul Alaje, taking a look at the economy of Nigeria from independence up until this time. Now, I'm actually tempted to actually break it down, from every administration, but let's just go straight to, your thoughts on how far you think the economy has actually fared from independence in 1960 up until this time.
Well, I think that Nigeria forefathers have lived better life, more quality life. They had access to more means of exchange. In this case, currency of exchange in Nigeria is Naira. And when they were even spending the pound, they have access to more quality life than many Nigerians are doing today. Recall that the population then was far below what we have now. So what seems to have been growing since independence till today is the population. Nigeria was at a phase where we saw sporadic growth in the economy after independence, and a number of persons had wondered that Nigerians are a different breed of human. You recall at that time, Nigeria did not require visa to go to places like United Kingdom, among other places around the world. In fact, even from 1967 to 1983, 1 Naira was equivalent of $1.5. That is, 1 million Naira was equivalent of $1.5 million. When you look at the numbers today, a million Naira is $1,000. Do you know how much we've lost in value? What Naira has lost in value when you put a million Naira down, it has emaciated because we've lost $1,499,000. You can convert that to the same today's Naira. And you know how badly this economy over the years have been managed. An economy is everything. The health of a nation reveals the status of our economy. Education in a country reveals the status of our economy. And the Central Bank of Nigeria reveals that average of 1.5 trillion, that is the amount Nigeria spent to import education. With the recent devaluation by President Bola Tinubu, it is certain that what we spend to import education will be more, or many we have to stay back. Again, while many are going to school in government institutions such as Obafemi Awolowo University, Unijos, UI, Unilag, when they finish, especially those in medical field, they feel they don't have sufficient tools to work with. What do? Education that is almost free in Nigeria. They go abroad where they feel they have a better way to settle. But a number of persons have said that could be brain circulation. We should allow them to keep going. The question is, when will they come back? When they continue to hear news of insurgents, of banditry, of kidnapping in different parts of our countries, without exclusion to the northwest, northeast, and even the southeast, where sit-at-home headway, up until recent time we are hearing government is doing something significant about it. And when you look at how Nigeria has been rated upon our independence, we saw that Nigeria as a nation had major geopolitical zone, if you like, where we have the north that was, of course, king at Pioneer Pyramid, and the west was taking the lead in cocoa, and the east, as it were, was taking the lead in palm oil. But as though those were not enough, Nigeria discovered crude oil in the Niger Delta region. And as I talk to you, many international organizations have come to Nigeria to help Nigeria with the exploration of the same. While the Nigerian government felt we have achieved a rent-sinking economy, that in itself make oil to appear as though it's cursed. In the real sense, oil is supposed to be a blessing. But that said, Nigerian government abandoned the previous wife, which we had in agriculture, and embraced this unknown wife, not knowing that a few years down the line, there will be civil war, not knowing that a few years down the line, there will be
I want to ask
even oil guns. We brought Nigeria back to its roots.
Yes, Paul, very quickly. Where did Nigeria get it wrong economically? Because you've talked about, you've taken us back to the days of the regional system where there was, comparative advantage. You focused on where your strength lay. At what point did the Nigerian economy begin its decline to where we are right now?
We got it wrong when one of the previous leaders promoted commodity importation. That is a policy where whatever we don't have, we started signing agreement that 25% of our imports will come from Europe. And we became largely dependent on this country. I recall that Kaduna State, I'd like to use as example, was the headquarters of textile in Nigeria. Many countries within West Africa rely so much on Kaduna State for their textile, for their cloth material to be produced. Today, it's moribund, is a shadow of itself. Nigeria did not stop there, depending on foreign market. When we could no longer buy from this international community, we felt it would be time for us to come back home. Looking back, we noticed that we have done damage to several manufacturers because they could not compete when we open our border with little or no taxes for those who are producing abroad to come home. What we forgot was that when we import in excess, we are taking 3 decisions. The first decision was to consume. The second decision was for us to deplete our foreign reserve. The third was the most important decision, is to take jobs from the hands of Nigeria to foreigners, to producer. Because we have refused to produce, we have left our faith in the hands of those that are producing for us. And when that was going on, the then leader, there was a military coup that brought in Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, and he felt the way to go is to devalue Naira. And we saw a major devaluation, which was evident in the policy sold to Nigeria by IMF and World Bank together called Structural Adjustment Program. This structural adjustment program took many Nigerians unaware the price of PMS went up, similar to what we are seeing now, because this international community felt what government was subsidizing was too much. Same policy, almost similar policy, is what we are seeing evident in Nigeria today. So that said, we saw that Ibrahim Babangida could not stay in office because, of course, he lacked legitimacy at the time. Then we saw an interim government, and later we saw another head of state who even said he was not going to import at all, another extreme, and felt Nigeria was self-sufficient.
So Paul,
he was trying to force.
It's been from, I'm so sorry once again, it's been from one failure to the other. You're looking down memory lane and comparing it to today. Are we seeing a repetition? Because some of these things have a way of playing out in cycles. Are we seeing, you're the expert, so tell us, are we seeing a play out of some of these mistakes that happened in the time of OBJ, Shagari, Babangida, Buhari Part 1? Are we seeing some of those mistakes play out today in the current administration? What lessons can we learn to not make those mistakes happen again?
I can tell you that we have been moving around in Baba's chair without making any progress. When you look at Buhari Part 1, he repeated what he did in his Part 1 in his Part 3. When President Buhari was head of state, he changed the color of money, and suddenly many people were stranded. It led to major economic quagmire. Nigeria went to its first recession after the Civil War. The same thing repeated itself at the last coming of President Buhari under civil rule, while he had the same policy that took Nigeria growth from 3% to 2%. And we saw a number of persons die. We saw a number of small businesses badly affected. Today, the policy has been reversed and is now a policy somersault. The same thing with the issue of PMS, when government then was advised to devalue, at the same time to remove subsidy. We saw it in President Tinubu's administration. And you see, these advisors will give us this, and they will give government good reason. The truth is that When you look at the other side of economics, which they always check, they will give good reasons why government should implement this policy. What they did not tell government is that these policies are not sustainable. Brazil tried it, they dropped it. Argentina is trying it, Argentina is sinking for it. And China tried it many times. In fact, China was even sharing money at a time before China understood that with their population, the way for them is to go to the by the way of production. Nigeria should realize that we are not just the largest population in Africa, we are also the largest economy. But the question is, with our numbers, over 220 million people, when you compare that with what we have in the UAE, the indigenous of UAE themselves are less than 1 million people, but the foreigners are nearly 9 million people, a population that is less than 10 million. Almost the same GDP with a population of 220 million people. That means in the United Arab Emirates, average person, the average citizen of the country, it's a millionaire. Meanwhile, when you come to Nigeria, average person is expected not to be rich. And perhaps that's why the country is called a third world country. Perhaps that's why a country, I meant to say, is low income earning country. It's a big challenge because when you look at all of these policies, what we should be doing, and I'm not just saying because President Tinubu is the one in office. I'm saying this because we need to find an holistic way, a way of solving some of these problems. And the good news is that if you are ready, when the students are ready, the teacher will show up. If you are ready to really solve this problem outside political parties, outside politicians, and we say we want to have progress for Nigeria. Remember, before independence, Nigeria had a national economic growth plan. Military, we got independence, and we saw some individuals that came and upturned some of those things. What was released in recent time under President Buhari was another economic plan. That economic plan lacked direction. And you see, we have done almost 2 years into the plan,
right, Paul,
and you wonder whether Nigeria is progressing or regressing. Let me quickly
stop you here. Now, you'd actually agree with me that President Tinubu has actually tried to do, something different from what the past administrations have actually done. Let's talk about the unification of the exchange rate, which, as it is now, it's actually worse than before. Now, let's also talk about the removal of fuel subsidy, which a lot of people actually had hopes that will actually alleviate, more of the sufferings of Nigerians, but it also ended up becoming making it more hard for Nigerians to actually live in the country. Now, what is this present administration actually getting wrong? And what would you say are the solutions, to take Nigeria to where it is supposed to be?
Well, I don't know if you are aware of what the price of PMS was when the military president Ibrahim Babangida was in office. But I can tell you that when the military president was in office, some of these policies are not different from what we have now. These two key policies were exactly implemented under President Ibrahim Babangida, of devaluation, of which we now change the name to unification. And you asked me a question I'm not supposed to ask you, but if you can ask, and many Nigerians and those who are not Nigeria watching us across the globe now, as the exchange rate truly be unified, our official market over 700 naira, parallel to $1, and parallel market over 1,000 naira, with the interest of government to unify.
We are unifying
without a foundation. Yes. The foundational problem of Nigeria is supply side. No matter how we hide from it and we want to use monetary tools to solve economics problem, we will go back to the first law of demand and supply, which is, to the first law of demand and supply, and that is what can take us out of the current economic quagmire. The West must let us know. They must, because if government is listening to them, they must also say that this is not just the policy that brought UAE to where it is. It's not the policy that brought Germany to where it is. It's not the policy that brought America to where it is. It's not the policy that China adopted. We must adopt policy that is unique to our persons, to our nation, so that we can deliver Nigeria from the current economic quagmire.
And the question is, who will come up with these policies? But before you answer that question, let's look at the struggles of the Naira since 1973. My producer reminded me, that I wasn't born then, but if you look on your screen, you'd see, that you had a dollar to 0.658 Naira. 1983, 10 years later, it was still strong, $1 to 0.724 naira. Yes, indeed. Dashen, how does that feel to know? 1993, of course, it moved from $1 to 17 naira 30 kobo. I think, don't know if that was when you had the fuel price instability and scarcity.
Yeah, the time of structural adjustment program moved from almost 0.72.
Yes.
So you can imagine over 1,000%. It's not one, it's not 10, it's 17. If you take back from what the producer is showing us, from 2000, which was 360, compare it, from 2003, 127, compare it to what is showing in 2023. You see, even though the number looks small between 1983 to 1993, but when you look at the percentage growth, I wish that could be done for us. When you look at the percentage growth and you compare that with the percentage growth between 2003, this is now 20 years gap, to 770 naira to $1. You see that these two periods are where Nigeria has endured most hardship in terms of quality of money. It's important I speak to quality of money. You know, when government was announcing that we're going to remove subsidy, I asked the question, what happens to exchange rate? Because the supply side of PMS has not been addressed. As we speak today, our faith as a nation, we 100% depend on international community to refine what we have under our foot, especially in Niger Delta, in spite of the theft that is going on the crude oil. If we can still refine what the nature, what Almighty has naturally given to us, if we put the content of our brain and we are willing to do something meaningful with 4 refineries that have been built over the years for them to produce, it will reduce the pressure on the foreign reserve. It will also help the value of Naira to go up.